In this video, we're going to create a calendar template for Google Sheets. So the way this is going to work, we're going to have these calendar tabs for, see, January, February. You can keep adding more of these if you wanted to. So if I, for example, click on duplicate this, I can change this to, let's say, March, and then update this to March 2021. And you'll see how the calendar updates immediately with my dates and everything else. It's also going to mark any holidays with some color coding. So for example, if I go to January, see how 1st and 4th have this blue highlighting? So that's because those dates are marked as holidays in our holidays tab right here. If I have a holiday in March, I should be able to go here and just add that day as a holiday. And when I do that, it should automatically mark, see, that day with that blue color coding for us. So holidays will be marked based on dates you enter here. It also adds all the details for that day in the calendar. So this part, it's optional. You don't have to make your calendar do this if you don't want it. But I'm going to go over that in the video to show you how to add this functionality so that, see, we have some events, and based on date, time, and description entered here, it goes to the right calendar. So let's do an example for that. If you see for March, I just did a copy. Let's say on March 9th, we have something we have to do. So I can go under details and just enter that here, March 9th, 2021, enter some date, enter some time, let's say 11 a.m. We're going to have to cook or something. So as I enter that here, see, now if I go to March, you'll see that automatically just appears here. And if I add more for that same day, not here, but under details, let's say for 1 p.m. Now it should show up as another line here, see, that shows us the date, time, and the event itself. So this is what we're going to build in this video. Okay, so let's get started. So all I have is an empty spreadsheet. So we'll just enter some days. So I'll start with Sunday. And I'm just going to click on this, go to this autofill and drag it one more. Next, let's combine all these cells on top. So I'll just click on this merge cells. Let's just center that. And here we can type something like JN 2021, or you could do January 2021 if you wanted to. What happens when you do this, if I just click back on the cell, if we just take a look in the formula bar right here, you'll see that what was entered in the cell is January 1st, 2021. So what it does, it automatically converts that in the background and formats the cell like this. So basically what I'm trying to say is we can now work with this as if this is a date. So what I'll do right here, I'm going to use weekday function to figure out which day of the week this is. So I'll click on this, which is this first cell really, when it's combined. A1, I'm going to close parentheses. And we'll just do F4 to make this absolute reference, or you can do $signs manually. So at this point, it's just going to give us 6. And the reason it's going to give you 6, it basically starts with 1 being Sunday. So basically, we know that January 1st, 2021 was Friday. Friday 6 is because count starts from Sunday. Sunday being 1, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is Friday, 7 would be Saturday. So the way I'm going to use this, if I just take whatever date we have here on top and subtract this 6 out of it. So let's just go here and do that A1 cell minus this weekday number. I'm going to do F4 again to just make this absolute reference too. Hit enter. So you'll see I got this. Let's just reformat this to be a date. So you can see what I got here is December 26, 2020. So at this point, before I actually finish this formula, I want to do something else here. In these cells, I'm going to just do a simple formula. I'm just going to say equals this cell plus 1. So basically, let's add 1 day to our previous date. So if I do this and drag this formula right, you're going to see that we basically just end up adding a single day to our previous cell. Now, a second ago, we figured out that January 1st was supposed to be a Friday. So this should have been one left here. And basically everything should be one more shifted to the left. To accommodate that, I'll just go back to our first formula and we'll just add 1 to this formula. So I'm just going to do plus 1, which will shift this to December 27th. This way, we actually end up getting January 1st, where it's supposed to be on Friday. Okay, so let's move to the next week. So if this was our first week, then I'm gonna basically skip this line and go to this line here. And all I'm gonna do here, just do equals this day plus 7. So a week later from the previous Sunday. And if I hit enter, that should give me this. And I should be able to just drag this down. And at this point, I could just do Command C to copy this and Command V to paste a few times until I get all the way through 31st. Now with this setup, I should be able to just easily go on top here and change this date. January 1st is Friday. That is in the correct spot. Now let's switch this to April 1st. So as you can see, April 1st should have been a Thursday. So if I do this, see everything shifted. And now we're here. That's our April 1st being Thursday. And then we can go back here and change this pretty much to anything we want. So if I do something like December 2021, it's going to basically shift our calendar, our December 1st in the correct spot, Wednesday. So now at this point, I'm going to do a little bit of formatting here. Add a little more space for all of these empty lines. So I'll just select the first row 4. I'll do Command or Control, select all of these rows right below, and I'm just gonna resize this to make this a little more like a calendar. So we're trying to pretty much make like this size from here through here to be about the same size as this. Right about here should be fine. Then I'll go ahead and center all of these. And maybe we'll resize this December 2021. So let's switch that to 36. So our next thing is going to be to figure out how to not display these dates that are not a part of our current month. As a matter of fact, let's switch this back to January. And the way we can do that, we can basically compare if the month of this date matches the month of this date. So if I did that formula here on the right someplace, I would do equals month. There's a function like that in our spreadsheet. We can click on this cell and you can see it gives us 1, which is the number of this month. Now, if this was May, that should give you 5. And then the same way I can say, is that equal to the month of this cell, A3? And because this is December, it's going to give us 12, and this is January, it's going to give us 1. They're not equal, so this is going to give us false. But when they are, like this one over here, if I check that, see, it gives me true because they are the same month. So I'm going to go back to this one, the first one. And what I'll do, since I want this formula to work as I drag this left and right, I'm just going to go ahead and make this A1 absolute reference, F4 or $signs for that. Now, the reason I need this is because I'm going to use that for conditional formatting. And when you have a formula that works with trues and falses in right spots, it should work for conditional formatting. So let me just show you a quick example here. If I drag this formula right, you'll see that it gives me false, 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 false for the first 5. And then the last 2, it gives me true. So if we look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are all December. So those are false. And then these 2 are not. So these are trues. Now, if we decide to use this for conditional formatting, the ones that are true will get the format. The ones that are not will not get the format. So I'm going to flip this. So what I'll do, I'll go back to my formula. Instead of checking if it equals to that other month, I'm going to check if it's not equal to that other month by doing this less greater than thing. Which means if I just drag the same formula now, you'll see that we'll get trues and falses just in opposite positions. So now because of this, I should be able to apply this formula to all of these as conditional formatting formula. So I'm going to select this formula, the whole thing, copy, Control C, Command C. And then what I'll do, I'll just basically select this cell for now, this first one. And I'll go to Format and do conditional formatting. And here, I'm going to switch this to Custom Formula Is option and paste that formula here. And we'll just pick some sort of formatting. You can see we get highlighting for this because this is not the same month. So what I'll do, I'll just pick some sort of background color. And then I'll choose a different font color. Now, usually I would pick something that's very light different like this. So if you wanted just these to show up lighter, the ones from the previous month, you could do this. If you want them to basically just not show up at all, you could just match the background color like this. For right now, I'm going to do a little darker color like this and basically done. Now I want this same type of formatting to be applied to this cell right below, which is basically a part of this Sunday. So I'll click in this empty cell, add another rule, and basically just do custom formula is and paste the same formula. And choose exactly the same format. Press done. So at this point, I don't really need these. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to first remove all this grid lines that our spreadsheet by default has. So I'll go under View and do Grid Lines. So basically, I want a little border around this. So I'll just select this much, these two cells together. I'll go to this border tool and I'll choose some sort of color. So I'll go with maybe like light gray color like this. And I'll choose regular style border and do this one, basically border around that whole area. So once I got the border around this first one, I'm going to select this, copy it, and then I'm going to select this whole area, including this row right down here. And I'm going to right click and paste special, and I'll do paste format only. And that should apply that formatting to all of these cells. So you can see now I got these borders. And you can also see that anything that's not in that month is automatically highlighted with this color. Now, if I change this date to a different date, let's say March, and you'll see we got March 1st here, 31st down here, and the rest are basically color coded like this. So this is pretty good, but when you look at a calendar, usually these dates don't show up as like March 1st, March 2nd. You usually get something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to make that happen, I'm going to select these rows that have those dates. So Control or Command and select all these lines. And I'll do some custom formatting. So I'm going to go under Format and go to Number and go all the way down to More Formats and Custom Number Format. And really all I have to do here is to only show days. So I'll just remove this regular format and just replace it with a D, meaning show me the day. Hit Apply and see now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now I'm going to format this a little nicer. So I'll add a little background color to these. So I'll just go with a background color like this dark color. I'll do a font color, maybe change this font size to 11 and also do some background color for this. So I'll choose a little lighter color for this and a font color for that too, something like that. Resize this row 2 a little bit. And with that, we'll also do a little bit of alignment here, center that like this. I'm going to add a little border on this area. And I'll probably try the same color border here and just do this one, all borders. Maybe that's a little too light, so I'll go a little darker on this. And maybe go with more like matching color to our background. So I'll choose this. Let's try that and see what happens. I think that's about good. I'm going to change the font for this whole thing. So I'm going to select this whole upper left corner and I'll just switch to a different font. Something like this should do. Make these bold. And probably make this one bold too. I'll do that same border color for this too. Next, I'll resize all these numbers for our days. So I'll just do Control, select all of these, and make them a little bigger than this. So I'll just do 11. And I think I want this background color to be a little darker for this conditional formatting. So I'm going to click on this. I already have this box here, but if it wasn't here, you can always get that by going under Format, Conditional Formatting. Right there, I'm going to click on this first cell. And here, let's just make our background color a little darker, this next shade. And at this point, I'm also going to keep this text color the same. So basically, it will be invisible. So I'm going to hit Done. And I'm going to do that change for this as well. So I'll click on this conditional format, and apply this shade. I think this is pretty close to what we actually need here. And you can see this works out pretty well. So I'm just going to go ahead and change this to January. At any point, we can basically just change the date or make a copy of this tab and then change the date. And it's just going to update. So I'm going to rename this one. Let's just call this January. So at this point, I want to add some conditional formatting to our holidays. So what I'll do, I'll add another worksheet and I'll call this one Holidays. And basically all we need here is a column of dates that will be our holidays. And you can obviously just keep adding your dates here. So now using these dates, I want to add conditional formatting to highlight those days in our calendar. Now remember, these are dates, even though they look like numbers right now. And also you want to remember that there's a date here too, even though it's not visible. So what I can do a match function to check if that date is in here or not. So let's do it with this day. So I'm going to do equals match. And I can click on this date, comma, and then I can go to Holidays tab, select this whole column A. I'll do F4 for good practice to add absolute references, comma, and 0 for exact match. So as you can see, we got a 1 here. So I don't think this is formatted right. Let's just switch this to maybe number. So as you can see, that's actually 2. It was just formatted as a date and it was showing up incorrectly. So this is actually 2. And what that 2 means in this is that we're able to find this date, January 1st, in the second row of this column right here. See, it's in the second row. So if I drag this formula right for this second day, there's no match. It's not in here. So that's all that formula does. Now the thing with this formula is that if we want this to work in a conditional formatting, we cannot link to an external tab in conditional formatting. So to get around this, we're going to use indirect function. So I'm going to do indirect, open parentheses, and then place this whole range in quotes as text and close parentheses. And this should still work. Now, if we apply this as conditional formatting, anytime it gives us a number, it will be evaluated as true, meaning it will apply conditional formatting. And anytime it's an NA, it will be basically false, so it will not evaluate it as true. So at this point, I should be able to copy, Control-C, Command-C, hit Escape, click on this cell that I want to add some format to. And if this is not open, you would go to Format, Conditional Formatting, and add another rule. And this rule is going to be a formula too, custom formula. And I'm going to paste this formula right there. And you can see that date gets highlighted because that's actually one of our holiday dates. And I'll just choose some background color and font color for this. Maybe something like this. Possibly even make it bold. I'm going to hit done. Now the thing with this is that this was only applied to this one cell. I need to apply this to all of these number cells. So the way I can do that, if I go back to the cell, you can see we already did this for this one. And if I open this previous rule, it has all these cells already highlighted. So I'm just going to copy, double click and copy all of that, hit cancel, and go back to my new rule and replace this apply to range to that range. Paste here, hit done. Now that should apply that to all of those cells, but the problem is because now our first cell in range is this A3, we should adjust our formula to that cell. So I'm going to go back to this rule one more time and change this F3 to A3 being the first cell in that. So A3 like this and hit done. And you can see how our January 1st gets highlighted right away. I don't need this formula anymore. Good. So this is this. It works. Let's change this to January 4th. Let's see what happens. Now we should have 2 days in January. So if I go back here, see 1st and 4th get this highlighting. You could apply that same rule to these cells as well. I kind of like this, so I'm going to keep this like this. So my holidays would be just highlighted like that. Now let's try this for December, because for December, see, we should have December 25th color coded for us. So I'll go back and do this December, and we can see how it just happens. So now all you have to do, just add your holidays here, and it should help you to color code your calendar. So at this point, this calendar is pretty much ready. Now I'm going to do another step. I want to do like a detail worksheet where we can actually add some events and have those events automatically populate in our calendar. So for that, I'm going to add another tab. I'll call this details. And basically all we're going to do here, just enter a date, time, and some description. So let's just make some things up. Now, because I don't expect this to be entered in the correct order, I'm going to actually create another worksheet. And for this, we'll just copy this column names and paste it here. And what we'll do, we'll just use sort function to make sure we sort that data. Go to this details. I'm going to select starting from the second row and like this, drop the end reference to go all the way down, comma. I want this data to be sorted by date first and then by time. So date is my first column. So I'm going to do 1. And this should be ascending, true. And then comma. And next one I want to sort by is time, which would be 2. And this should also be ascending, so true for that as well. Close parentheses, hit enter. And what should happen now, it should automatically have that data sorted in this order. Now, right now it doesn't make any difference whatsoever, but if I go to this and let's say enter something for January 2nd, something like this. Now, if I go to my details sorted, you'll see that this is sorted. January 2nd is here and our times are sorted correctly. This details sorted we can hide at some point, but this is what we're going to use to actually populate in our calendar. And we're going to populate in this box. What I'll do, I'll create a formula, filter. Now with our filter function, we want to first display the data. So I'm going to go to details sorted and basically select this description. Drop the end reference like this. I'm going to press F4 for absolute reference, comma. Now after that, we need what we call condition. So we want to filter this data by that particular date. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this date column, drop the end reference. Again, F4 to make it absolute reference. And I want that to be equal, if I go back to that January, to this date right here above. So I'll just click on this date, close parentheses, and hit enter. And you can see I get a reference error. The reason I get this reference error is because this filter function is going to basically give us a range of data, not just one single cell. And to see that in action, let's just copy this for a second and paste it here on the side so you can see how this works. See, I got these three things on that particular day. I want to first make sure that these are all returned in a single cell. So what I'll do, I'll just go back and join this. And as a delimiter, I'll use a space. So I'm going to do quotation, and then I'm going to do Alt or Option Enter to add a new line. Close quotations. So I want to add a new line between these different things that I'm trying to join, comma. And then we're going to basically use this filter data to join. So I'll just close parentheses, hit enter. And now you can see we got all of that in a single cell. Right now, it only shows the description from here, but I would like to add times to that as well. Now, if I go back and add here in the filter function, this is where the results come from. So I'm going to join my results. I'm going to create an array here. I'm going to wrap that C column in curly brackets like this to create an array. And with this, I should be able to now add another column of data here. So I'll just go and select that first A column from here. And because now I'm in the midway of the formula, I'm just going to have to just do some copy pasting. So I'm going to copy this range, paste it here again. And then I'm going to do ampersand to join the other range to it. And this one, I'm going to update to column A, which is our times. And you can see instead of times, I actually got some 44193. And one of the reasons I have that is because I chose A column, which is dates. I should have done B column. So let's go back and update that to B instead of A. So you can see it's still not giving us times because it doesn't give us the formatting. So what we'll do, we'll format that B column right here using text function. So I'm going to do text, open parentheses, and then go after this B column right here, comma, and in quotes, let's close parentheses first. We need to provide the format. And the format I'm going to use is for minutes, and then we'll do a colon. Actually, we need hours first. So HH and then So hour, minute. And then after that, we probably want like something like AM, PM, like this. So at this point, if I hit enter, see it gives me 8 AM, 1 PM, 2 PM, except that we probably want a space or something else separating these things instead of just having them combined like this. To fix that, I'll go back, and when I join these things together, I'm just gonna add another separator here. So I'll just do in quotes like a space and do another ampersand to join that other column. So at this point, if I hit enter, see I get my times and descriptions. So finally, I'm going to add if error around this whole thing, just in case there are no matching events for that particular day. Just like that. And hopefully that should be the formula we should be able to use. So I should be able to now grab this formula, copy the whole thing, hit escape, go back and replace this formula with that. And we should have this information for this day. Now what we're going to do here, we're going to basically make that text a lot smaller. And then I'm going to actually just align this vertically to the top. And I want to also not show anything that overflows the cell. So for that, I'll just go here and do this clip option. And this should have all the formatting and formula I would like for the cell. So now we should be able to copy paste this. So I'm going to copy this, paste it here, and we should be able to just repeat this for our other cells. And as you can see, as I do this, cells that actually have some data for that day, they automatically populate, like so, and it just works. Now, you could just dedicate more space if you wanted to the right, if you want this to fit more of this text. I'm going to leave that up to you. So at this point, we should have what we need. I should be able to just hide this tab and just keep details over here. And if I switch this to February month, see, none of those things are populating here. But if I go to details and add something to my calendar, it should automatically pop up here. See, for our February 4th, 9 a.m. And if you wanted to, you could keep January and February at the same time. So I can just make a copy of this and make this one for February that has all of that. And this one should be our January. And we have both of them, January and February, and all of this data in it. So let's just print this and see how it looks on a piece of paper. So we should be able to do fit to page. Our calendar printed should be good too. Cancel this. And that should do it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.